everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of a little show we like to call Marketing Mode, where we touch on all things marketing, but there is a twist. Everything we discuss here is based on and largely about research and data that we collect. So we'll be talking to other marketers, we'll be talking to each other, and hopefully you, our audience, will find some great nuggets in every episode that you can apply to your job and maybe life, who knows. So yeah, Todd.
And we're your hosts, Todd Lebo and Jenna Blanio. We are partners of Ascend2 Research. We provide original research for companies to use to help promote their companies, both in marketing and to better understand their ideal customer. So with that, Jenna, do you want to kick us off with a little bit about the topic we're going to be talking about today and some of the research?
Yeah, so we're kicking off this series with a little research of our own that we published in January. It's marketing personalization trends. This research is based off of actually two reports. One survey we conducted this year, actually at the end of last year, December 2022, that had 355 marketers participate. And then the year before that, December of 2021, we asked some of the same questions to 364 marketers. So it gives us a really cool perspective on how things have changed in marketing personalization. So we're going to go through a few of our favorite takeaways from this report. We're also going to get into some exclusive unpublished data from this report and some special segments. But we're trying to keep this short, so let's get on with it. We're going to talk about the influence of personalization on the customer experience first. So if you're watching the video of this, just a little note here, you'll see the chart we're referring to. But if you're just listening, we're going to just tell you, the percentages we're talking about, and then you can go to our website if you want to check out the report itself, or if you see something or you hear something that isn't represented in the report, like a special segment we mentioned, please feel free to reach out to Todd or I. We're happy to provide you with data and anything we mention in this episode. So influence of personalization on the customer experience. We saw a big increase from last year to this year when it comes to improving customer experience as a top benefit of a personalization strategy. We saw 43% last year compared to 51% of marketers reporting this at the top of the list this year. So Todd, what are your thoughts on this increase?
Yeah, I mean, this really aligns with other research we saw in 2023 or 2022 and moving into 2023 from the standpoint of, I think 2022 is really that, period of where customer experience finally went from this is something we need to do to something we have to do. And so I think in general, we saw an emphasis on that. And I believe personalization is just one of those ways that marketers feel like they can tap into accomplishing that goal. So, it didn't really surprise me that much. I think, the amount that it increased was a little bit surprising because we don't normally see maybe quite that much amount of increase. So like to me, that really did, move it into the, we have to address this, not just a nice to do, but a have to do type of thing. And, it really kind of makes sense because if you want to try and improve the customer experience, if you go back and you look at personalization and how how you're talking, not only how you're messaging your audience, but how you're segmenting that audience so you can give them, custom content, so you can talk to them specifically about their industry, something about them. So, these really go hand in hand, right? I think, personalization and customer experience, it's a great partnership.
When marketers are getting picky when it comes to the tactics and strategies that they're putting their energy into now. So it seems that personalization is, one of those areas that's worth it to improve.
Yeah, and I think this trend will just, continue. And as we look at some of the other data, I think there's, always differences between B2B and B2C or enterprise and SMB. And this report that we're looking at today looks at the general content or general research, but then we like to go in and dig deeper into like these different segmentations, which can really be helpful for you out there as you're looking at your specific audience and your specific needs. You can tap into us to help find those little nuggets that would help apply specifically to what you're doing as a marketer.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's different. Um, so the next question we want to talk about is this challenges question. These are always amazing questions to ask because, challenges, success comes and goes, challenges never go away. But what are the most significant challenges to executing a successful personalization strategy, according to marketers? We found that budget and resources tops this list. So, the budget and resources required to execute. We also saw a significant jump in how challenged marketers are by the required technology to execute. So Todd, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. As marketers, I think budget's always a concern, right? We always have to, work hard at getting our budget and using it in the best way possible to accomplish our goals. But I think in 2023, we definitely see that there is a great emphasis on budget because a lot of companies are cutting budgets. I just talked today to one of our clients who has to push one of their projects to later in the year because of budget shifts. So I think marketers, we all can feel that pain, and so that's a great, the greatest challenge. I would encourage marketers, that's kind of why we do our research, so that marketers can justify budget. They can go in to their executive team and show this is the budget I want, and here's why. It's not just because I think it's a great idea, for example, that we focus a little bit more on customer experience and personalization. You can also back it up and say, here's what other marketers are doing. Here's why I want to allocate budget. But budget is definitely a big concern, and then also do I have my MarTech stack correct? Can my MarTech stack handle what I'm trying to accomplish? I think we all know, Jenna, and you and I have gone through this exercise many times. It's the what do we need, and do we have the right technology to accomplish what we need? And so I think that's in tight budget cycles, I think you're always looking to determine, is there a better way to accomplish what I'm trying to do with my MarTech stack and also save some money? I mean, that's always top of mind.
Yeah, I mean, the tech stack takes up a huge portion of budgets most of the time. So, uh, as we're trimming the fat here, are there people here to use this technology anymore? Is it relevant anymore? Is it effective anymore? Has our team changed and therefore workflows have changed and therefore the technology is kind of moot? So yeah, this might be a little bit of a painful process, but probably an area where the pain is worth it.
I think so. I mean, especially when you look at, success with personalization, and then you step back and, the personalization that you want to do now compared to maybe 2 years ago might require an analysis of your MarTech stack to see if you can now, can you do the things you need to do with your current stack? Those that thought process and those decisions have probably changed. So I mean, I think we're constantly looking at that at Ascend too. What do we want to do, and do we have the tech stack to accomplish that? And technology has really changed a lot. So some of the things that you had a hard time doing a couple years ago now are a little bit easier to do because of the advancements in
Yeah,
technology.
I was going to say availability of technology. We see these new advancements in AI, particularly, but I'm sure people are looking at that and reevaluating. What more can we do now? With less.
Yeah, and I think some of the technology stacks, I mean, to be honest with you, some of the technology, it's more legacy technology. So sometimes there's newer options that just work better because it's built on, a more modern, platform, uh,
Mm.
that's a little bit more user friendly. It doesn't require as many resources maybe with your team. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of considerations, and I think some of our research has also shown that you know return on investment can happen much more quickly than maybe what people expect. So
yeah.
maybe you can make the implementation in 2 months, and you can start having uh, you know in 6 months return on investment, and that's pretty good.
It is. Yep. And we get really excited about talking MarTech. But speaking of legacy technology, our last little bit of insight for you has to do with email. Um, and I know Todd, you mentioned to me offline that you got some direct feedback and excitement um, on the fact that email came out on top again. It won't go away as a key component for where areas of where personalization is most impactful. So email still tops this list. It did last year, it does this year. Both years, around 65% of marketers rank it at the top. So what do you think about that?
No, it was a pleasant surprise, and email, even though I think sometimes we, fall in love with the new tactics. Uh, Email can still be very effective, and I think specifically with personalization, part of it is we're pretty comfortable as marketers, the type of personalization we can do with email, and that's beyond just like the name, right? It's more in the segmentation and pulling content that aligns with an ideal customer profile that you have set up, workflows and all of that are just they fit really well with email. So it really doesn't surprise me a whole lot. I think maybe the next step though would be for marketers to look at some of the things they do in their email personalization and then think more globally of how can I apply that to some of my other tactics within my marketing initiatives.
Mhm. Yeah, and another standout to me here, and we talked about special segments earlier, but we we pulled out the segment, the B2B versus B2C segment here, just to take a look, because we know, how different these can be, the uses of personalization, and where the biggest areas of impact are can vary between the two. So, we saw a pretty significant difference between how B2B marketers responded to this versus how B2C marketers did. 75% of B2B marketers put email on top here. This is compared to 60% of B2C marketers. Um, what's interesting to me here is that the B2C marketers seem to have a more diversified perspective on this, right? They don't feel as strongly about anything. So 60% said email, and then the next highest on that list was website as an area of great impact for personalization at 53%, whereas B2B marketers, it went from 75% email to 44% said website, and then so on down the line. So kind of just gives you a little bit of insight into like where marketers are seeing the biggest and greatest results from personalization, and probably from a lot of other tactics as well.
Yeah, it probably aligns with like, B2B companies having like buyer groups and account-based marketing. Um, so Jen, I was thinking of one of our clients we did a couple of research studies for in the past 6 months. Uh, they have conveyor systems for food processing plants,
Mhm.
and they were breaking out their research into like different products the companies convey. So like coffee or pet food, things like that. So they have all these different ways that people use their products, And so they're pulling some of the research out of their report and showing, like, for example, some specific content for people who are conveying coffee, people who are conveying pet food. And so you can think about like that personalization that you could have in your, in your campaigns. And like for a B2B company, that's a treasure trove of not only content, but different ways you can use personalization to speak specifically to, an industry, or maybe then, there's other segment or other customization and personalization you could do for, if it's, the manager versus maybe the executive, so there's all these different. So I think that's kind of where like that personalization, uh, why it's so important to B2B marketers, because they have so many different audiences they're trying to speak to, and the more they can personalize, I think the better.
Yeah, and email is one of those things, like we said, it's sort of a dinosaur. Everyone's familiar with it. And maybe, it's an area where people find it easier to implement personalization. Um, and so that could explain this data as well.
Yeah, but it's definitely a really cool exercise to look at the research in those specific categories, because sometimes, you know, what we like to try to we discuss with research is research can be a thinking tool for you. So it helps you to look at look at something like this, and you dig deeper and you're like, I wonder why that's the case. And then the more you dig into it, you try to think about your applications of how you would apply, what you're learning from that research. And then obviously, the end goal too, you can use it to hopefully justify request for budget, or justify to your team, why you're trying to do a specific tactic. So to me, the research is always, it's always fascinating to not only uh, see the data, but also analyze, like, and try to think about like the why behind it.
Absolutely. And how to apply it.
Exactly. Research in action. We talk about that all the time. We try to make our
Absolutely.
research actionable.
Well, Todd, that was great. Again, we wanted to keep this short and sweet, so I think we covered everything we wanted to here. Unless you have anything to add, we can wrap it up.
No, just thank you for spending a few minutes with us today. And if you have any questions about the research, or if you have any research you think that Ascend2 should tackle in the future, please let us know.
Absolutely. And we have a whole library of free research on our website, ascend2.com. So, make sure to head over there. Everything's free. You can just kind of peruse. Pretty much every digital topic that you can imagine is represented there. So, yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Take care. Thank you.